All right, guys, we're going to do the reading of The Telltale Heart. I'm going to actually have it read from the internet because it's kind of more spooky and it sounds more scary. Um, but I am going to still stop and talk with you guys about the story. But the first thing I want to talk to you about is the title. The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. And a lot of people skip this. They just don't even pay attention to the meaning. And if you look, the first tale is a verb, it's telling you something. And then the second tale is a tale, like a story. So when it says like the telltale heart, it literally tells you what the story is going to be about. The heart that tells you a tale is going to tell you a story, the heart that tells. So pay attention to that. I'm going to have to jump to another screen before I start, but we will be reading and stopping. So let me get this here. And all right.
True, nervous, very, very dreadfully nervous I had been and am. But why will you say that I am mad? The disease had sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? Hearken and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole
Sorry.
story.
Okay, so we're going to go back to this and talk about the first paragraph. True, nervous, very dreadfully nervous. Okay, so he's telling you he's very anxious at this point. But he tells you he has a disease and he never tells you what disease it is. He actually tells you that the disease hasn't destroyed him. It's not made him dull. It's made him actually more sharp, and he can hear anything. That's what acute means. He says, I've heard all things in heaven and in the earth, and I've heard things in hell. How then am I mad? Well, first of all, mad doesn't mean angry. It means, how am I crazy? So he's automatically telling you, mad is used in the crazy sense right now. He's trying to say, what I'm about to tell you, you're going to think I'm crazy. But I promise you, I'm not. Well, first of all, that's the first sign of probably being crazy, but whatever. And then he says, hearken and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. So he's talking to us, the reader. The narrator is using first person point of view because he's using I, but the narrator is telling us this story and they're saying, hearken, listen to me while I tell you the story. And I'm going to tell you it calmly and healthy so you'll know I'm not mad. Because, most people, when they're crazy, they ramble, they act stupid, they act crazy. So keep that in mind that he's telling us that he's going to tell us this whole story and he's not crazy. So we're going to go to the second paragraph. Let me click.
It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Object there was none, passion there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. But for his gold I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. He had the eye of a vulture, a pale blue eye with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold, and so by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man, and thus rid myself of the eye forever.
Okay, so we're going to go back to paragraph 2. It's, he starts telling us his story and he's saying, I don't know how it first entered my brain. But once I came up with it, I conceived it, it haunted me day and night, which means it's not like haunting him like a ghost. It means it's the ideas with him all the time. When he says object there was none, passion there was none, he loved the old man. He's saying the man never did anything wrong to him. He had never given me insult for this, that, for his gold, so for his money he didn't want. But he tells you, I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. It was pale blue and had a film over it. Guys, more than likely he probably had a cataract or something. And if you don't know what a cataract is, go look it up. But this eye bothered him. he can't tell you why really, but every time he saw it, his blood ran cold, and you know he couldn't stand to look at it, and he gradually made up his mind to take the old man's life so he wouldn't have to see the eye anymore. Now, is this talk of a crazy person? Yes. But remember, in his first paragraph, he's justifying this, saying, I'm telling you it calm, I'm not rambling, I'm making perfect sense when I'm reading, or when I'm telling you the story. So keep in mind that he doesn't think he's crazy, guys. All right, we're going to go to the third paragraph, and then I'll stop again.
Now, this is the point. You fancy me mad. Mad men know nothing. But you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. And every night, about midnight, I turned the latch of his door and opened it, oh so gently. And then, when I had made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a dark lantern, all closed, that no light shone out. And then I thrust in my head. Oh, you would have laughed to see how cunningly I thrust it in. I moved it slowly, very, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head in, within the opening, so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. Ha! Would a madman have been so wise as this? And then, when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously, oh so cautiously, for the hinges creaked. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray of light fell upon the vulture eye.
All right. So this paragraph is, he's beginning to tell you more about the plan. And he says, now you see, at this point, you fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing. So he's saying madmen are stupid. If you're crazy, they're stupid. They don't have a plan. They're not cautious. They do things wildly without thinking. And he tells you he proceeds with caution, with the forelight of a dissimulation. He was never kinder. So that means he was fake kind to the man to hide, how he really was planning on killing him. And the week before, every night about midnight, he's going into the guy's house. In the guy's, apartment or room or whatever. And he's practicing, he's getting ready. And he says he moves very, very slowly to not disturb him. And right here, would a madman have been so wise as this? He's saying, I've taken so much caution and so much planning. I've been so, slow, meticulous with my movements and done this every night. A madman wouldn't have been that smart to do that and to pretend like they like the man and be kind to the man that they plan on killing. And this particular night, though, and when my head was well in the room, he does the lantern cautiously, very cautiously, and the hinges creak, and then that single ray of light fell upon that vulture eye. So this one ray of light left in that lantern falls upon the one thing that makes his toes curl and his stomach turn. So what happens next? Let me get this ready for paragraph 4.
And this I did for 7 long nights, every night, just at midnight. But I found the eye always closed, and so it was impossible to do the work. For it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning when the day broke, I went boldly into the chamber and spoke courageously to him, calling him by name in a hearty tone, and inquiring how he passed the night. So you see, he would have been a very profound old man indeed, to suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked in upon him while he slept. I appreciate.
Okay, so he's telling you in this paragraph, he did this for 7 nights, every night at midnight, hoping that when he turned that lantern, it would go into the eye, and he would see the eye, and it would make him, act upon it, because that eye distressed him, it vexed him, it made him stressed out. But he never opened his eye, and he never saw the eye. So he felt like without seeing that eye, he couldn't do it to the old man. He couldn't kill him. And every day, the next day, he would go into his chamber, which is his room, and speak to him, call him by name, and just making sure that this old man had no idea that he was coming in every night to see if he was sleeping or if that eye was open, because we know if that eye open, he's gonna kill them. All right.
Your concern. Upon the 8th night, I was more than usually cautious in opening the door. A watcher's minute hand moves more quickly than did mine. Never before that night had I felt the extent of my own powers, of my sagacity. I could scarcely contain my feelings of triumph. To think that there I was, opening the door little by little, and he not even to dream of my secret deeds or thoughts. I fairly chuckled at the idea, and perhaps he heard me, for he moved on the bed suddenly, as if startled. Now you may think that I drew back, but no. His room was as black as pitch with a thick darkness, for the shutters were close fastened through fear of robbers. And so I knew that he could not see the opening of the door, and I kept pushing it on steadily.
Okay, so the 8th night. Let's talk about this 8th night, because this is kind of when things change. He's saying he was more cautious than normal. I was being slow because I watched his hand move faster. And, he had his powers of sagacity. That means you have sound judgment. You know what you're doing. He couldn't contain his feelings of triumph, and to think there he was opening the door. He'd done this 7 nights before, and he kind of chuckled at the idea that, God, this guy has no idea what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden, he moved in the bed, and as if he was kind of startled. And he, the old man kind of, maybe did he hear him? Did he hear him laugh? Did he hear the door? We don't know. The room was black. It was pitch black. And the shutters kept things, tight. They were closed tight. And so there was no light getting in there. So I knew that he could not see the opening of the door. So what he's saying is the guy had no idea his door was opening. There was no light. It was just pitch dark. So instead of leaving, this guy keeps going. I wonder why. Let's continue.
Steadily. I had my head in and was about to open the lantern when my thumb slipped upon the tin fastening, and the old man sprang up in bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I kept quite still and said nothing. For a whole hour I did not move a muscle, and in the meantime I did not hear him lie down. He was still sitting up in the bed, listening, just as I have done, night after night, hearkening to the dead watches in the wall.
Okay, so, he's about to open the lantern, his thumb slips, and there's a noise, and so, we know the old man's awake, and of course he cries out, "Who's there?" I mean, who wouldn't? We would, oh my God, what's going on? Who's there? I hear noise, But this guy keeps quiet, and for a whole hour, he says nothing, and he doesn't move a muscle. Not the old man, but the man. And in the meantime, I did not hear him lie down. So this old man is sitting up. He's startled. He's just listening, as he had done. So he's saying, he knows something's wrong, and it's almost like he hears death, because that's what hearkening means, to hear. He hears death, and he is watching it, waiting for it to come. So this old guy knows that something is in there that is dangerous. We're going to stop there for the day. Please make sure you do your questions, and we will continue with part 2 tomorrow.